Alright, welcome to your weekly New York City crime and fire news for the week of May 31st, 2021. We're uploading this on June 1st, 2021 because of the Memorial Day holiday. And I want to mention that I'm going to open my window for a second. It is so warm today. It's supposed to be 80. Supposed to feel like June, and I forgot to open my window before this update got started. So, a little extra sunlight definitely helps the trick. So, what to get into as usual for these updates as usual. First up, let's talk about the obvious what's going on at Spectrum News New York 1, because it's just so obvious what's going on here. Nothing about the shootings that happened overnight. You know, you would think that they would have it on their homepage. You know, I get the indoor dining curfew ended, but this is ridiculous. Well, there were 8 shootings in New York City last night. 8 shootings! This should have been on the front page. Nope. You don't have that. So obvious what New York 1's gearing to. I'll give them credit. At least they covered Washington Square Park, and we'll get to that. So that's a big deal. I didn't even know about this. Caroline's on Broadway reopened. They're their comedy club, but ridiculous. Let's even check the public safety. You know, they did a decent job covering the crime yesterday. I'll give them credit, even though they didn't send any reporters. Yeah, here we go. So actually, Weakling Dermot was on today. Oh boy. I mean, listen to this. Listen to how Dermot Shea talks. He sounds like a weakling. A man with no spine. That's what de Blasio put in as police commissioner. By the way, there is some decent news. The suspect in the Times Square shooting has been extradited to New York City, so thank goodness. Why did it take so long? You know, but nothing about the shoot. I mean, they had something about it, but really, nobody wants to watch Dermot Shea. Nobody really wants to watch. And I also mentioned, we had a fire at the governor's office, so we're going to lead off with that, because the media blatantly didn't cover this. Right, Channel 7 only spent maybe 30 seconds covering this. 30 seconds. Alright? And I literally have to get my information from a news tabloid. Yes, a news tabloid. That's how much of a joke the media has become in 2021. Alright? I even thought I heard this explosion here in Queens. So if you didn't hear, there was an explosion at the governor's office in Midtown at 633 3rd Avenue. And what happened was, I might have heard it in Queens. And, you know, I thought maybe Channel 4 would cover it. I called their newsroom on Sunday night. Didn't even bother to send a reporter out. Channel 7 covered it for like 30 seconds. But that was Joe Torres looking over the Citizenat video. So at least Channel 7 covered it, but you know, it's so obvious what's going on. It's like News 12 with Long Island. They're doing the same thing with the media bias. It's happening in New York City. But I will mention with these videos, if you keep watching and sharing them, you know, it is somewhat working, because some of the media outlets are starting to cover the crime again. And, you know, they've got to prioritize it throughout the remainder of the summer. And if nothing changes after we fully reopen New York City on July 1st, then something is just dreadfully wrong here. So let's just get into what happened in Midtown. So let's see what we got. So the FDNY is claiming that this fire happened in the subcellar of the building. So, yep. I'm not going to use this for our thumbnails. Thankfully, no injuries have been reported. So, they're saying this is an electrical fire. Spokesperson Jim Long said there have been no injuries, although there are elevated levels of carbon monoxide. And Con Ed did cut power in the area to figure out what to do. But, it's so obvious what's going on here. But I'll give the media credit. They actually spent a lot of time covering this when it happened last week. There was an awful, awful house fire that happened in Ozone Park. And this is going to be our thumbnail for this week. Because I will give Channel 7 credit. They spent 3 minutes covering this a couple days ago. So I just wish that this computer would let me save the file already. Just wish it would, but I guess it's not. There we go. Now let me save it. I'm going to have to edit some of this part out. I don't know what is going on with my computer CPU lately. It's just acting all haywire because Windows keeps updating my laptop. Alright, so it says here that 4 women were injured following a critical house fire in Ozone Park. They were listed in critical condition last this article was published in the Queen's Courier. So it said that this fire happened in a 3-story private house in Ozone Park on Thursday, May 27th. The fire broke out at 101-10 101st Avenue inside the 3rd floor of a 3-story private home at 4 a.m. Firefighters rescued 4 women from the apartment. Daniel Nigro said shortly after 4 a.m. they got a 911 call about the location. He said units arrived in less than 5 minutes and immediately went to work. Nigro said, "I have to start off by saying I couldn't be prouder of the way FDNY members operated heroically. They pushed up to the 3rd floor with heavy fire showing. They found 4 victims on the floor. People were in the respiratory on cardiac arrest. They were all pulled out of the fire very early. The 4 victims were transported to Jamaica Hospital, where they were in critical but stable condition as of Thursday evening, according to Daniel Nigro. Nigro commended the medically trained firefighters as well as EMTs and paramedics who responded to the fire in coordination. Walter Adler, a paramedic and mobilization coordinator of the Emergency Medical Services Public Advocacy Council, told the Queen's Courier that if it weren't for EMS response, the woman could have died. They were no longer breathing and 2 had no pulse. Thanks to the speed and competency of the EMS units on the scene, those 4 women, for now, alive in critical condition in an intensive care unit. A paramedic at the scene, who asked to remain anonymous, told the Queen's Courier that thanks to their work with the FDNY, the young women are still alive. The paramedic said last night in Ozone Park, hospital-based Jamaica EMS demonstrated that they are always ready. The FDNY said the fire was under control at 5 a.m. Nigro said the cause of the fire is still unknown and remains under investigation. However, he adds the firefighters did not find a working smoke alarm or or any carbon monoxide alarm. See, really, you've got to proofread this stuff. Carbon monoxide alarms is serious. Nigro said these 4 women were not alerted to the fire. The call came from an adjoining building, and that's just very sad. We over and over again talked about how smoke alarms save lives, including carbon monoxide ones, and how helpful this would have been. Nigro said that fire is not suspicious, and the marshal is looking into the possibility of being an electrical cause. Okay. So I'll give Channel 7 credit. They actually spent 3 minutes covering this a couple days ago. So let's just see if there's any activity going on right now. I'll just quickly check on the fire wire. So there was a fire in Staten Island, believe it or not, yesterday. Well, not yesterday, but a couple days ago. The New York one did cover. So, last fire reported was at 111 Mower Avenue in Staten Island. Fire in the basement, extra engine and truck were called. Then there was a fire that happened in South Jamaica at 109-68 141st Street. Fire in the basement that went into the attic. Yeah, and we'll get to this later on. Trust me, we got a lot of crime we got to cover today. So there was a 1075 call about that one, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of activity yesterday, but nothing going on as of right now. So that's the good news. Thankfully, no active incidents start off June yet, but they could be later today. Knowing our luck. Alright, so we gotta talk about more hit and run incidents, and I did a video about this on Sunday night, but sadly overnight, we have another hit and run incident that happened in Brooklyn, in the Boerum Hill section on Atlantic Avenue last night, and Channel 4 did cover this. So I was watching a newscast this morning. Alright, so it says a man was fatally struck and hit by a driver in Brooklyn. Leonard Mitchell, age 70, was attempting to cross Atlantic Avenue near 3rd Avenue and Nevin Street Monday night at 10:55 p.m. This happened on May 31st. That's when he was struck by a dark-colored sedan. Sadly, the victim was taken to Brooklyn Hospital Medical Center where he was pronounced dead. The Highway District Collision Investigation Squad said the vehicle kept on going along Atlantic Avenue after the crash. So they're looking for a dark-colored sedan. Obviously, no arrests have been made. There's an ongoing investigation. If you know anything about this incident, call the Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS, 8477. In Espanol, 888-577-7482, which is pista. You can also submit a tip online, www.nypdcrimestoppers.com, or on Twitter at NYPDTips. Okay, so next up, we're going to get into another sad incident involving another hit and run. Drunk driver allegedly hits 5 officers on Staten Island while they were setting up for the Memorial Day parade. And I will mention, New York 1 did cover this, because yesterday I actually had to watch New York 1 for their 11 a.m. newscast because Channel 4 was airing tennis. So I couldn't watch my regular newscast on Channel 4 yesterday morning. So I had to watch New York 1. And I will mention, New York 1, believe it or not, spent about maybe at least 5-6 minutes of the broadcast talking about crime. So I'll give them credit, but knowing my luck, they'll probably be back to regular programming today, giving to a certain demographic. Alright, so let's get into what happened in Staten Island. A drunk driver who was driving a pickup truck struck 5 NYPD officers on Sunday, May 30th, as they were setting up for the Memorial Day parade on Staten Island. The officers, at least 3 in plain clothes, were putting up barriers for the Monday festivities at Livermore and Forest Avenues when they were struck at around 9:45 in the morning. 4 were taken to Richmond University Medical Center with minor injuries. 1 refused medical attention. The driver, identified by police as 39-year-old Brian Manning, who lives in the New Brighton section, remained on the scene. Alright, so this isn't a hit and run. Sorry to clarify that, but I just want to bring that up. Manning was charged with DWI, reckless assault, driving without a license, and refusing to take a breathalyzer test. Photos taken by the Staten Island Advance show a teal pickup truck that appeared to have hit a telephone pole. Yes, you can see here, this is what the Staten Island Advance posted. So, let me make sure where this happened. Yeah, Livermore and Forest Avenue. I want to confirm location. Alright, so this appears to be a Ford F-150. If I could tell by the front, it does appear to look like that. And then we have to get into another incident. Man killed in car crashed on Parsons Boulevard in Flushing. So something else the media should have covered, but no, doesn't even get a passing mention. A man died following a car crash on Parsons Boulevard on May 24th. Wow, so this happened last week and I didn't even know about it. Okay, so it says police responded to a 911 call regarding a crash at 142-50 32nd Avenue at 6:46 a.m. When officers arrived at the scene, they saw a 58-year-old man, later identified as Lee Wren, with trauma to his body, according to police. EMS responded to the scene and transported Wren to Booth Memorial Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead. A preliminary investigation determined that Wren was traveling northbound on Parsons Boulevard and attempted to turn westbound on 32nd Avenue towards the intersection when he was struck by a 66-year-old man driving a 2013 Dodge Ram. Okay, so the Ram was traveling southbound on Parsons Boulevard. The NYPD Highway Collision Investigation Squad is investigating the incident. No arrests have been made. So there you go. This should have gotten a mention on New York 1, but it didn't. So now let's get into how violent last night was, because I am just very disturbed to think that it's a holiday. You would think the crime would take a break. Apparently not, because there was even a homicide in Long Island reported last night. So New York City is pretty much dealing with the same paradox. It's like Long Island and New York City somehow have a crime connection. It's just getting to be a pattern lately. It really has. And I will mention that Pine Power LI did talk about the homicide in Wyandanch last night. It's technically Wyandanch, not West Babylon, because I sort of know that area pretty well in Suffolk. So I'll have that carded right now if you want to see that video, because he was ranting about News 12 again, but that's a serious story. So let's focus on what happened here in New York City. So there were at least 8 shootings, according to Channel 4. They said 8 shootings last night. And what's so disturbing is that there was at least 1 shooting in all of the 5 boroughs of New York City last night. That's how disturbing this is. And this gun violence, you would think it normally happens in Chicago or Philadelphia, for an example. Now it's in New York City. Alright, so it says a 15-year-old was killed and more than a dozen others shot. And it says here that 1 person was shot in every New York City borough in a 6-hour period of Monday evening. Weakling Dermott himself said there were 9 shooting incidents, 4 of them in Brooklyn, with a total of 15 victims. Okay, so here we go. The 15-year-old kid that was shot happened in East Harlem. It happened at 10:30 p.m. at 123rd and Lexington Avenue, where the teen was shot in the torso and a 30-year-old man was shot in the knee. Both were rushed to Harlem Hospital, where sadly, the 15-year-old victim was pronounced dead. There are no arrests, obviously, and we don't even know what led up to the shooting. About 2.5 hours earlier in Brooklyn, 5 people were shot outside of a bodega. Authorities said to appear to be a Tritantos gang member shooting in a rival gang, and some of the victims may have been arrested. So, there you go. Another shooting. Literally, they said 4 shootings had happened in Brooklyn last night. So it says here that additional shootings happened between 4:30 p.m. and 10:40 p.m. involving victims in all of the New York City boroughs. So let's just get to the one that happened in Jamaica, because obviously this is something I want to talk about first. 36-year-old man was shot in the ankle at 145th Street in Jamaica Avenue in Jamaica, Queens. He was taken to Jamaica Medical Center in stable condition. So again, I just want to mention that all these incidents happened yesterday on Monday, May 31st. Second incident, 5:40 p.m., a 35-year-old man was shot in 8th Avenue and West 144th 3rd Street in Harlem. The victim was taken to Harlem Hospital in stable condition. 6 p.m., a man was shot in front of 835 Nostrand Avenue at President Street in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. He was taken to Kings County Hospital in stable condition. 7:50 p.m., 5 men were shot in front of a bodega at 735 Knickerbocker Avenue in Bushwick. A 25-year-old man was shot in the back, a 24-year-old man was shot in the chest, a 38-year-old man was shot in the right arm, and a 29-year-old man was shot in the right leg. 3 were taken to Wyckoff Heights Hospital by private means, and the 4th went to Elmhurst Hospital. The victim arrived at the hospital later on. 3 Hispanic males fled the scene. So they're looking for 3 Hispanic males who were involved in the incident. And then look at this, Staten Island. 2 people were shot at 231 Stuyvesant Street in the Concord section. A 19-year-old man was shot in the left arm and a 20-year-old man was shot in the left leg. They were taken to Staten Island University Hospital in stable condition. So I wanted to see what happened in the Bronx, because It said all 5 boroughs. This is definitely all 5 boroughs. 10:40 p.m. A 58-year-old man was shot in the shoulder at East 157th Street and Cortlandt Avenue in the Melrose section of the Bronx. So Melrose is normally not a safe area anyway. The victim is in stable condition at Lincoln Hospital. And then at 10:30, a 15-year-old was shot in the torso and a 30-year-old man was in the right knee. They were taken to Harlem Hospital, where sadly the teenager was pronounced dead. So we just talked about that. And then another epidemic you just heard outside, drag racing. What else is new? Alright, so let's get to the subway crime because, a lot's happening with the subway crime. We have at least 4 stories I have to read to you regarding crime overall and mass transit. So I should have clarified myself there. Okay, so it says here, a man who was attacked, beaten, and robbed in a subway station is speaking out about a vicious encounter. 2 men followed the 64-year-old victim into the Lexington Avenue and 59th Street station around 5 a.m. on Sunday, May 30th. The man followed him to the turnstile where they demanded money. One of the suspects slashed the victim's forehead with a razor blade before they ran off. Now the victim has 12 stitches in his forehead, one eye swollen shut, and the other has 2 more stitches. He also wore a giant COVID mask, blocking what's left of his face as he spoke to WABC TV, out of his fear as attackers may come again. The man known as HM said, "I felt angry and upset." So of course you would. As if going through it the first time wasn't bad enough. Video released by the NYPD shows the brutal attack. He was punched until he fell into the turnstile as he hung on for dear life. One of the men slashed him in the forehead before they stole his cell phone and about $150 in cash. So, sadly, I have to report that this victim was Asian. So, there you go. So, one of the suspects was carrying a razor. And sadly, apparently, this guy's not Asian. Apparently, he's Muslim. It says here that the victim is just praying in a Midtown mosque. Alright, so we have a description of the suspects. Police released video along with still images showing the suspects' distinctive limited edition footwear, one wearing NBA Timberlands and one wore a rare Nike model. Yep, there we go. And then look at this. I agree with this guy. He's like, you can't control it. What are the police for? Exactly. That's what happens when you defund the police. So they don't have the resources and they can't deal with problems like this. And then they bring up the fact that we know about DeBozo talking about how he's not getting along with Sarah Feinberg over the police issue. So, obviously, we know what's going on here. And by the way, unrelated, but they talked about in this video, there was a rat found at the Whole Foods at Columbus Circle. We don't want to talk about that. There's more serious issues than that right now. Yeah, and let's just get into the let's see. So look at this. Dangerous trends of violent robberies happening along the E and F lines. Thankfully, I don't hear anything about happening on the 7 lately. So at least I'm glad to hear that news. Yeah, and then they talked about what happened. So let's move on to this story. There was a hate crime that happened at the 21st Street Queensbridge station involving an Asian victim. Well, it says here an Asian man was punched towards train tracks at the Long Island City subway station by an unidentified man Monday morning. A 35-year-old Asian man was standing at the 21st Street Queensbridge F train platform at 7:43 a.m. on Monday, May 24th, when suddenly he was approached by an unknown man. The unidentified man said something repeatedly incomprehensible and shoved the 35-year-old man onto the southbound tracks. Passengers who were at the station helped the man out of the tracks, but the man sustained a deep cut to his forehead and was transported to EMS to nearby Mount Sinai Queens Hospital. The unidentified individual then ran out of the station to the street and fled in an unknown direction. He is described as 6 feet tall and in his 20s or 30s and was last seen wearing a black mask, black hoodie, black pants, and black shoes. There you go. The anti-Asian attacks continue. Yeah, so they do have a picture of the suspect. Alright, so let's just get into this last story that I have here I want you to read. Rider punches throw drinks at a bus driver in the Bronx. The New York one actually covered this. So, I don't know what happened here. I don't have a, yeah, here's the picture of the suspect. This is the guy who's, accused of doing the incident. So, let's read this. An angry strap hanger threw a drink at a Bronx MTA bus driver and then punched him in the neck. The bus was rolling east on 170th Street near Morris Avenue when a man in a blue surgical mask was wearing a white t-shirt and blue bucket hat doused a 38-year-old driver with a beverage. The unruly rider then punched the operator in the neck and ran off. Sadly, the suspect has not been caught. Cops released a surveillance photo of the suspect and asked the public's help identifying him, tracking him down. We don't know what caused the incident, so again, this is who they're looking for. I'll give the suspect credit, at least he was smart to wear a face mask. And of course, we know about the trend of transit workers getting assaulted. And look at this. TWU Local 100 claims the 29 felony assaults against bus operators have happened between October 5th of last year and March 29th of this year. So October 5th of 2020 till March 29th of 2021. Union leaders say they've also documented more than 100 monthly incidents of harassment, spitting, and menacing against transit workers. So there you go. You know, even as a transit worker, you still have to worry about being the victim of a violent crime yourself. Alright, so let's move on to this, because this is technically a crime story. So, violent group has led Washington Square Park to shut its doors early on weekends. So, it says here, on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, until further notice, Washington Square Park in Greenwich Village will now close at 10 p.m. instead of midnight. Additional NYPD officers will be there to close the park. So, I'm thinking they're likely going to call on extra officers in the 6th precinct, from what I'm thinking. The decision was made in light of several recent incidents where large and sometimes violent groups refused to leave the park. Officials say the behavior has included jumping on vehicles, making threats to officers, and throwing bottles and other objects as police or nearby FDNY and EMT vehicles. Police say the decision to remove the closing time will be reviewed on an ongoing basis. So I can't blame them, you know. They know more people are coming out because the vaccines are widely available. So it makes sense. Alright, so let's move on, because we have other stuff we gotta cover in Queens. And 2 incidents we gotta talk about that happened in Astoria. And then I'm gonna finish off the video talking about an Amazon worker getting assaulted. Because it's just ridiculous how essential workers can also be the victim of a violent crime too. Alright, so let's get into this. There has been a robbery pattern happening along Boulevard. So something else the media should cover, but apparently not. Okay, here we go. So we have 3 incidents that happened on May 17th, according to sources from the 111 precinct. The first incident, at 1:13 a.m., the suspect forced open the entrance of Nippon Cha restaurant at 39-34 Bell Boulevard. Once inside, he destroyed numerous items in the establishment and left. Next, The burglar headed towards J. Fresh Flowers, located at 35-15 Bell Boulevard at around 1:30 a.m. Police reported that the suspect forcibly entered the front door and proceeded to remove a cell phone and power tool. The suspect then made its way to Whitestone Plumbing Supply at 36-30 Bell Boulevard. At around 1:50 a.m., the man broke the shop's front door and reportedly removed 8 power tools. Law enforcement sources did not provide a description of the suspect, but surveillance footage shows that he was last seen wearing a dark-colored mask, a light-colored t-shirt, and a vest. Okay, so let's see if we can watch the surveillance video very quickly. So here it is right here. Alright, so if you have any other information, you have the normal contacts, but you are also encouraged to call the 111 precinct if you have any information. The phone number is 718-279-5200. Again, that's 718-279-5200. Okay, so next up, we're going to move on to a story that technically happened in Elmhurst. Because apparently nobody seems to get their geography right in Queens. So, there's 2 stories we're going to get to in Astoria. One of them I actually have to thank someone for, and I'll bring up their name in just a second. So first up, in Elmhurst, a 75-year-old Chinese woman is okay after being attacked. So, this happened literally in Elmhurst. So, 97th Place and 57th Avenue is literally not too far from where the Q88 bus stop is. A 75-year-old Chinese woman was punched in the face while walking home from the grocery store in Elmhurst, according to authorities. Her grandson told the Queens Courier she's okay, but the assault came as a shock and the experience has been a little surreal for him and his family. According to police report from the 110 precinct, the 75-year-old woman was walking in the vicinity of 97th Place and 57th Avenue on Wednesday, May 26th. Then suddenly, an unidentified man punched her in the face in an unprovoked attack. She fell to the ground and suffered a fractured nose and right orbital bone and was transported to Elmhurst Hospital in stable condition. In a surveillance video released by cops, the unidentified individual was last seen walking on foot eastbound on 57th Avenue. He is described as a man in his 20s, last seen wearing a green shirt, blue shorts, and red sneakers. The NYPD is investigating this as a hate crime, obviously, so no surprise. So we do have a video of the, yeah, here it is. This is literally the incident where it happened. Just sucker punched. Oh, yeah, this guy's gonna definitely get caught. Because think about it, he wasn't wearing his mask. So again, the time of COVID, you would think you want to get away with a crime, put your mask on. And this is what I always talk about with these dumb criminals. By the way, I will mention Channel 4 did a terrific job covering this a couple days ago. So it says here the victim's grandson named Alex Yen found out about the attack after a family member sent his mother a text message telling him that the grandmother was assaulted and was in the hospital. So Yem said the elderly woman has a broken nose and a scratch under her eye. Yem said it's been hard to get in contact with his grandfather directly as family members have been calling non-stop. She told people to stop calling her because she's fine. She's a tough lady, so I know she probably doesn't want everybody calling her. So they've been living in this area for more than 40 years. Yem currently lives in California with his parents, but said most of his family's members still live in New York and New Jersey, some of the areas where there have been a rise of Asian American attacks and hate crimes since the COVID-19 pandemic began in March 2020. So, just awful. Okay, so let's get into news from Astoria, and you know how concerned I am about the once favorable area to live of Northwest Queens and Long Island City, and Astoria has been seeing a huge uptick in crime in the past year. So, I didn't even know about this. Pedestrian with shopping cart struck dead by SUV. So we'll get to that afterwards. I didn't even know this happened. So I want to mention that there's one person who actually notified me about this on Twitter, and that is Felicia Kalan. Now, if you don't know who Felicia Kalan is, she is somebody who I'm supporting in the 22nd City Council District for her election coming up later this year. And I did mention to her that I am planning to visit her campaign office later this summer because, I just don't want to see Astoria go into a bad place. It's a neighborhood that I care about. My dad's mechanic is literally not on 21st Street. So this is an area I care about too much. So, it says here that a man punches a 65-year-old woman in a random attack in Astoria. Police say they are looking for a man who punched a 65-year-old woman in Astoria. This happened on May 21st. This happened at, 65-year-old woman was punched. So it said it happened on 32nd Street and 30th Avenue on May 21st. The man allegedly approached her at 9:40 p.m. and punched her in the chest. Emergency responders took the victim to Mount Sinai, Queens, in Astoria to be treated for pain and bruising. Her attacker was described as a black person, let's just say that. It was wearing a black leather jacket with leather studs. The NYPD released surveillance video, so let's see if we can watch the video and just see what the victim looked like. Not the victim, the suspect. There we go. Yeah, look how he quickly walks past the camera. So if they do a freeze frame, they might be able to figure out who this person is. Now we're going to move on to vandalism going on in Astoria. So somebody is putting an anarchy symbol. Okay, so it says here that there have been 4 different instances of tagging a reg A with a circle or without a circle. This has been going on now for 3 months. On March 26th, an unknown individual sprayed painted 20 cars around 8:30 p.m. and 10 a.m. on 35th Street between 31st Avenue and Broadway. Come to think of it, I think New York 1 covered this back in March. The first incident, yeah. Then on May 18th at about 4 and 9 a.m., cars were sprayed painted with the symbol on 27th Street between 23rd Avenue and Ditmars Boulevard. The following day on May 19th, 17 cars on 33rd Street between 23rd Avenue and Ditmars Boulevard were spray painted around 9 and 11:45 a.m. The last reported incident of the tagging occurred on May 22nd. 8 cars parked on 32nd Street between 34th Avenue and Broadway were spray painted around 7:35 and 10 a.m. An NYPD spokesperson did not say whether the cars that were tagged were the same or different in each instance. Police believe there was only one individual tagging the cars, an NYPD spokesperson said. Police released photos and surveillance footage from the first 2 incidents. So we do have a video of it. Yep. You can tell the guy's trying to take out the spray paint can. Alright, so let's read this one. Pedestrian with shopping cart struck dead by an SUV in Elmhurst. So this happened on, let's see, Friday's date was May 28th. Yeah, okay, I got it right. 39-year-old woman was walking with a shopping cart, was struck and killed by an SUV in Elmhurst. Police say the unidentified woman had been trying to cross 91st Place and 43rd Avenue at 1:15 p.m. when she was hit by a 2018 Chevy Equinox driven by a 33-year-old man. The woman had been holding a small shopping cart across the crosswalk. A worker in a nearby restaurant called Mina Ora Casa saw a lot of blood. The cart was underneath the cart. Emergency medical responders took the woman who had suffered injuries to her head and body to Elmhurst Hospital, where sadly she was pronounced dead. Her identity had not been publicly released. The Chevy driver remained on the scene. Police said Friday evening that there had been no arrests were immediately made following this incident. the Highway Collision Investigation Squad investigating the woman's death. A woman who works at a pharmacy told the Daily News that the intersection is notoriously dangerous in this area. Several pedestrians and cyclists have been injured in crashes at that intersection over the past year, according to Crash Mapper, which uses data compiled and mapped by safety advocate checkpens. So I'll have to take a look at this website after I'm done with this video. I'm just going to put it on here. Okay, so I want to see if we can find the other thing. Oh, I want to read this one. This one actually got a lot of coverage, believe it or not. Oh, and then look at this. Let's get to this one first. 3 more. Queens detectives probe deadly shooting at a Queens home. Alright, so it says here that happened on May 30th. Law enforcement sources said that a homicide was reported at a home at 11:38 p.m. at 94th Street and 30th Avenue in the East Elmhurst section. Officers on the 115 precinct on a 911 call found the unresponsive male victim inside the residence with gunshot wounds to his chest and neck. Sadly, the victim was taken to Elmhurst Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Police have withheld the victim's identity pending family notification. Police do not have any details about the circumstances leading up to the shooting or possible motives. Detectives are working on obtaining a description of the shooter. So, we don't even know. Was this person shot through the window? This person just could have been minding their own business being inside the house, considering the weather was terrible this weekend. Alright, so we have 2 more stories we're going to get to from Brooklyn, and then we will wrap this video up. Brooklyn predator is using a dog to lure away young children. Detectives in Brooklyn have identified a creepy man accused of attempting to lure away young girls off the street by using a dog. In each incident between May 24th and May 25th, police said the perpetrator, Brendan Rodriguez, allegedly approached an underage girl while walking his husky and asking her to take a picture with the dog. He then brought the victim over to a nearby apartment building. On May 31st, the NYPD released video footage of Rodriguez walking a husky near a school within walking distance of the 3 locations where the victims were approached. The first incident happened at 7:39 a.m. on May 24th when Rodriguez allegedly approached a 13-year-old girl in the area of Osborne Street and Pitkin Avenue in Brownsville. Cops said he allegedly led the victim into a nearby apartment building. When the victim tried to leave, authorities said Rodriguez allegedly removed his backpack and placed the dog by the doorway. After the victim's friend called her out to her, the perpetrator took off in an unknown direction. The second incident happened on May 25th at 7:10 a.m. near 51 Christopher Avenue in Ocean Hill. Police said Rodriguez allegedly tried to bring a 12-year-old girl into a nearby apartment, but then she became frightened and ran away moments later. Nearly 90 minutes later, Rodriguez allegedly approached an 11-year-old girl in the area of Walk-In Street and Pitkin Avenue in Brownsville and tried to bring her into an apartment building. As in the earlier incident, the victim became scared and ran away. All of these incidents were reported to the 75th precinct. Neither girl was physically injured. Police described Rodriguez as a Hispanic male, standing about 5 feet 5 inches tall with braided hair. He was last seen wearing a black hooded sweatshirt and black pants. In each incident, Rodriguez was seen in possession of 1 of 2 dogs, one of which was a husky. The other canine appeared to be of an unknown breed, but smaller than the husky. So we do have a video of the husky here. Okay, so. And I will mention, Channel 4 did cover this morning. But here's something that should have gotten covered. Even the Firewire brought this up. Amazon delivery workers shot and grazed in face during a Brooklyn dispute. So this is going to be our last article. Cops are looking for the gunman who shot and injured a 22-year-old Amazon truck driver during an argument in Brooklyn on May 31st. Law enforcement sources said the victim suffered only a grazed wound to his face and is now recovering. Police said the daring daytime shooting happened at 11:19 a.m. on May 31st near the corner of DeKalb and Wyckoff Avenue in Bushwick. According to police sources, the victim was inside the Amazon delivery truck he had parked moments earlier when he got into a verbal argument with the shooter described only as an unknown male. The reasons for the dispute remains unknown at this time. The words turned bloody, cops said, when the shooter pulled out a gun and fired a shot through the window that grazed the worker's face. After opening fire, the perpetrator fled on foot in an unknown direction. Officers in the 83rd Precinct and EMS units responded to the incident. Paramedics brought the victim to nearby Wyckoff Heights Medical Center for treatment. So far, no arrests have been made in the ongoing investigation. So there you go. Hang on. This is just breaking. Somebody got hit by a car in Hell's Kitchen? Oh, I gotta read this. Oh, this just happened this morning. A man died on Tuesday morning after being hit by a car in Hell's Kitchen. At 8:08 a.m. on June 1st, the NYPD responded to a 911 call regarding a motor vehicle collision with a pedestrian truck on West 42nd Street near 11th Avenue. Upon their arrival, officers found a 44-year-old man who had been hit by a car, unconscious with trauma to his head. Sadly, the victim was taken to Bellevue Hospital where he was pronounced dead. The driver did remain at the scene following the incident. The investigation is ongoing by the Highway Patrol Collision Investigation Squad. You know, come to think of it, now this makes me think of another incident that's been going on in Hell's Kitchen. Let's see. Squeegee. Yeah, here we go.
Here are some listings for squeegee within 7 miles.
Trying to find an article. Yeah. I wanted to quickly read this, so then we'll wrap it up. So I actually heard about this on WOR this morning. A highly organized crew of squeegee men marked Monday's unofficial start of summer by aggressively wiping down windshields not too far from Times Square. The Post watched as 4 squeegee men converged on cars and SUVs waiting on West 40th Street near 9th Avenue under the supervision of a 5th man who described them like an air traffic controller. Oh, and then look at this. The cops don't even get involved. So there you go. This is the David Dinkin days all over again with the squeegee men. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. Because literally, when it said Hell's Kitchen, I'm thinking, wait a minute. I just remember hearing about this on the radio this morning. Their targets were primarily pricey rides with New Jersey license plates, including a BMW sedan and an Acura SUV. One driver barely cracked his window to hand over some cash, but another exchanged a fist bump with a squeegee man. Some of the men don't even wear masks while interacting with the motorist. The crew members appear to have been stashed their equipment overnight beneath a green tarp wrapped around a nearby tree, retrieving it while it showed up for work in the morning. One arrived drinking from a bottle hidden inside a black plastic bag, while another, who was on the scene, took a bucket into the Port Authority bus terminal, where he apparently filled it with water in the restroom. So you have to literally go up the escalator at Port Authority just to use the sink water. Man, the squeegee men are back. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And then we know about deteriorating conditions at Washington Square Park, so we just talked about that. A 57-year-old woman who encountered the squeegee men on May 30th while driving into Manhattan from New Jersey with lunch with a friend described feeling her heart racing as she was confronted by one man she described as a creepy guy. Man, these people are so afraid to just floor it. You know, if you're confronted by these guys, you know what? You might as well just get a red light camera ticket for all we care about. You know, so many people are just scared to floor it. Like, if you see clear, like 9th Avenue is normally clear. I've been down 9th Avenue where the traffic lights are in sync. Man, these people are so afraid to just hit the gas. It's crazy. And then this person from Jersey says, "Meanwhile, it's raining. Do you have any money?" No, I don't. But trust me, out of all people that would cover this, Alex Stockton Rossini, who used to work for 1010 Wins, who now works for WOR, she actually covered this morning. It's just crazy. Oh, and then look at this. There was a law enacted by Bloomberg while he was mayor that it says it's illegal for anyone to aggressively approach a motorist or a vehicle occupant for the purpose of either performing or offering to perform a service in condition with such vehicles. So if you do get caught, you get a 2-week jail sentence and a $100 fine. And then the Manhattan's DA's office is going to investigate this, so they will look into this. And then it says, yesterday, the New York Post saw cops repeatedly chasing away the squeegee men by flashing their lights on the cruisers, but the panhandler simply relocates to a nearby intersection each time. So I'm telling you now, folks, you have every right to self-defense. Alright? Best thing you can do, if you see no cars in front of you, just floor it. Floor it. Alright? Break the speed limit for all we care. At least do 40 on 9th Avenue. Because these people should start getting the message. Like, if you start fleeing away from them, and they see that you're scared, they're gonna go away. Alright? In this situation, don't be afraid to hit the gas. Alright? Just don't. So, with that, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all very much for watching. More crime news to come, and there'll be a lot of it. Trust me, there will be a lot of it. And I know I didn't want to make this video as long as it had to be, but there's going to be more to come, and I'll be on the watch. So thank you all very much for, of course, watching this video. And until the next one, please take care.